Morning all. I had quite an interesting game on Monday night against Maxim Cheslavsky for Wanstead Chess Club. So Wanstead came and visited Barnet. Barnet had his beef in Chess Club on Monday. I was playing white. I played e4 and he played knight c6 actually. I played here d4 and now he played e5. And actually the most common move in this position is actually what I played, which is actually to play knight f3, and it's sort of transposing into quite standard theory here after knight f3. Another idea might be actually d takes, so he takes here, knight f3 here could be a way of getting a small advantage potentially. What does black actually do here? If black takes I sometimes find this tricky playing with the black pieces. Okay, but anyway, I didn't want to go into d5 though. I think that is going into a position which should be quite comfortable for black. But even in d5 actually, knight here, I think there's an interesting move in h4, which we saw recently on the channel in one of the quick wins, just to disrupt the knight g6 plan. So here is quite interesting as well. There's been a couple of games with f5, and it's one of the games that went like this, quite aggressive, and actually, yeah, quite an interesting position emerged. So veering off. So I played actually knight f3, and he took now bishop c4. So this is kind of Scotch Gambit territory now, I think. Castles, knight takes e4, the main move, rook e1. I haven't actually played this that much myself as white before. 403 games with d5, it's quite well trodden. Bishop takes d5. The idea is to play knight c3, so it's using 2 pens here to get the piece back. Queen a5 is the main move. He played that. Alternative is queen h5. I think here, for example, like this, bishop g5 could be annoying here. On f6 there's bishop takes f6, I think. Although play could continue like this, quite interestingly. Okay, so let's just go back. So queen a5 was played. Knight takes e4. What else? Bishop e6. Now the main move here is actually knight eg5. For some reason I didn't quite fancy this. I should have played it really, it seems. So usually black would castle queenside. You'd take here, takes, bishop d6, bishop g5 apparently is the main move. We get this position, queen e2, and believe it or not here, black is meant to play king d7. I'm just going to put this on a good bit. So this position, I've seen quite a lot of games with black, apparently in theory, playing king d7 most of the time, and white maintains a small advantage in this position, eyeing h7 I think now. Knight e5, check, knight takes d4, quite theoretical really. G takes, queen takes, knight takes, rook e5. So anyway, that's just the line of analysis. So yeah, knight g5 is the main move here by far. Knight eg5, and on queen d5, white is better on with knight takes f7. So takes, check. We could take on e6. So the idea is for black to castle here. It's worth knowing this actually, if you're going to play this. I played an inferior move here, bishop g5, which I thought was interesting, but I don't think it's that great. Black is meant to be, the evaluation here on the 2 games is meant to be clearly better with h6, which is what he played. If he plays here bishop e7, take, knight takes, queen takes, stopping castling queenside castles, and similar to the game actually, queen c5 is a small advantage for white. In the game he actually played h6 on bishop h4 here. I was hoping he might play g5. I was a bit concerned though about the carnivorous king impact of this. On g5, if we can get this in, g5. It seems, you know, from an engine point of view, this is much better for black. This check should be answerable with king e7. So 2 pieces hanging. What does white actually do here? The engine suggestion is b4. Still 2 pieces hanging. b5. Takes bishop g3, and the king can munch this. So I'm not really sure about this knight f6. I mean, this is murky. This knight f6, and given that's the case, you know, g5 is interesting. Just one moment longer though. In this position, I don't know why there's been a change of tune in this variation here. c4 with only a small advantage to black, it seems, for some reason. I don't know what this is about, to be honest. Takes rook c1, takes bishop g3. If we take with the king here, rook takes c6. Wow, it's getting that e5 square. So this could actually be potentially good for white. Although here, no, it's about equal again. It's pretty hair-raising stuff. Oh, this is crazy. This is way off. I'm just curious though what is going on here with king safety. It's going to be a draw here. Okay, let's go back. So anyway, he played bishop e7, and I took that, and now I'm getting a slight advantage, I think, after takes queen takes d4. I'm stopping him castling queenside. After castles, this is the move I kind of liked, and the engine actually likes it here on this post-mortem, queen c5. So obviously, well, not, I'm going to show you, sorry, I shouldn't say the word obviously, but I'm going to show you. Knight takes c5 here should be better for white, trying to win material here. And what can black do in this position? But no, he played actually knight c6, and I play a move again which might be quite annoying, but on the other hand might not be the best. I played knight e5, which I thought was quite good at the time. The problem is it's just allowing a queen exchange with knight d4 here, which is very annoying to foot both rooks. Instead, before we run forward from this position, queen takes, apparently, knight takes. Knight d4 might be an interesting idea, slightly better for white. Where would the bishop go? If it goes here, knight c3. It seems pleasant enough for white, even though white hasn't got even though there's a knight and bishop potentially on the cards. With the symmetrical pawn structure, this is kind of equal-ish, and this is one of the big problems about this whole scenario for me, that I like trying to play for a win. And fundamentally now in the game we've got fundamentally a symmetrical pawn structure, and I actually haven't had any draws this season. Obviously I like having dynamic pawn structures. I've won most of the games and like lost one so far in the season if you start from November last year. But this should have been I wouldn't have gone into this if I knew I'd get this like sort of position. It's not that dynamic. So knight c6, knight e5, I'm trying to grab a small advantage. And I go a bit crazy now after taking knight d4. I have to calculate that rook e4 is not working. Now rook e4, knight takes. One thing to note here, and this was a total miscalculation, well, I didn't play this rook e4, but here he's actually got stronger than rook d8. A much stronger move than rook d8, which is what I thought was good. White can actually, in this position, play take here and knight f3 and kind of stop the knight getting back to d4. And actually rook e1 stops the back row mate. So black would be forced to give up the exchange here. The knight is trapped with rook takes f3. But black doesn't have to do any of this. Black actually in this position has got, after knight takes c2, rook c1, black has got bishop f5 here. And if rook c4 here, now, you know, this back row issue is echoing a bit. And if we get this sort of position, I don't think it even matters about taking here anymore. Black's got a very nice position here with the two rooks. It should be okay for black. But also there's this other idea though that knight takes, you might consider knight takes e6 first. Knight takes a1, because otherwise we're going to get that trap scenario just mentioned with rook ad8, knight f3, where the knight's trapped. But the thing is here, black plays knight takes a1. Now knight takes f8, rook takes f8, and apparently, okay, the knight stopped from coming out, but again the back row helps black. And again, black can actually use the back row weakness to get the knight out. And this position is way down, and it's only a tiny, it's about equal really. Black should be okay with check and rook b1. So if we go back, this knight d4 is really quite annoying. I play rook ac1, and already actually black is slightly better. In fact, the engine is suggesting just to nab a2, and I was checking this out. I was wondering about this, if it could actually be trapped with b3. It didn't actually take this pawn, but it might not be that easy to trap this. Like here, you know, c2 is a problem. For example, if I move my knight back, well, where does the knight actually go back? It will be quite easy to get a disadvantage here. So this is quite annoying actually. I'd have to play king f1 apparently. a5, whoops, a5 to try and get the bishop out. Knight f3. The bishop's not being trapped anytime soon here. This is the problem. b6. Alright, here, okay. Anyway, it would be quite tricky, but no, he avoided that idea of taking that pawn. He's not playing like Magnus Carlsen against Vichy Anand. He actually just played, actually, instead of bishop takes a2, he played bishop f5, which may be a strong move as well. Actually, it's the second mentioned move from the engine point of view. It seems logical enough to encourage c3. So I'm not best pleased by this position here after knight e6. He seems to have equalised, and I was a bit annoyed. Yes, and also the moves have been rattled out quite quickly overall by both of us. And yeah, here I went completely crazy. In principle, you shouldn't be really inviting rooks to your 7th rank. There's a number of reasons for this. The king is often restricted. It wants to get out in the endgame. Statistically, there's a lot of pawns to win. It's not a good idea generally to do what I did now. So I'm breaking all the rules and asking for big trouble. On the basis of a tactic I spotted, I play knight takes b7. So there's this idea to try and exploit this loose bishop here, but I'm inviting this rook to the 7th rank, and this is not to be recommended. Rook ab8, knight a5, rook takes b2, knight a6. Okay, so he has to do something about this knight e7. He plays actually rook e8, and this is not to be recommended either. I play a move trying to cause some back row issues. Potentially I play g4, trying to get the bishop here or here with a pin on e6. In fact, apparently he can play bishop g6, but bishop h7 is slightly better for black. I've just compromised f4 as well. So basically I'm giving my opponents very easy, you know, play and weak squares to pounce on. It's not one of my greatest games so far. Move 23, knight b4. I'm trying to trap the rook now. And actually, funny enough, this backfires. After knight f4, black is clearly better by +3, in fact. +3 here. Instead of knight b4, engine suggestion is rook cd1. Giving a pawn, just try and get some play like this, rook on the 7th. Knight g5 seems menacing. This sort of thing seems double-edged, to say the least. But actually, apparently, white is about equal here. It looks as like the knight needs an aggressive rook on the 7th to have more fun here. So, in principle, actually, this is also bad, retreating a knight from the aggressive places instead of trying to sack pawns and get rook on the 7th. So, as I say, it's not great. Knight f4, king f1, and actually there seems to be a very strong move available for black, c5. What do I do here after c5? He's got that d3 square as well. If I play knight here, f6, I think I'm crumbling actually. Bishop d3 check, bishop e4, I've got loose pieces. That's horrible, I'd have to lose the exchange there. So I don't know what I do after c5. It's on the position is on its way out. It just started from the symmetrical pawn structure where I tried to do something interesting instead of just play for a draw. Actually, I shouldn't have taken on b7. So I've asked for all this trouble, and I'm going to get trouble. He actually though played g5, which actually lets his advantage slip quite significantly. It looks like a very natural move to reinforce the knight on f4, but c5 is more incisive. a5 as well is a right pain. On trying to trap the rook, then rook e2, and here c5 apparently, and there's big trouble here. From knight c6, then taking bishop d3 check. You can see there's a host of tactical problems here for white. A whole suite of tactical problems to solve. But he played g5, and now he's only like less than half pawn advantage apparently. I didn't like my position. I played knight c4, which isn't probably the greatest. Maybe rook cd1 here. It's not a pleasant position. Now here he takes on e1, and now he plays like the best move in the position, apparently. Can you spot it? If I give you 10 seconds starting from now, what would you play with black? You might want to pause the video. Okay, to my horror, he just plays rook takes b4. I was actually expecting rook b1, so I wasn't really with it in this game at all. He plays rook takes b4, and he's winning 2 pieces for the rook. I just thought this is oh dear, this is not nice. I play king g1, bishop takes c4, but I remember a play chess Tuesday thing recently, where Adams was very tricky against Anand, creating some passed pawns. I remember that. I thought, if only I can create a passed pawn on the queen side here. So technically it's minus 0.74 to black here. I played check, and now if I go for a7, I lose immediately with a check on h3 for bishop d5 check. Loses immediately, that rook. So I have to be careful. I played a4. He plays a6. This might not be the best move, but a slight inaccuracy. f3 now. Bishop d5. Now rook c8 to encourage c6 so I can gain access to a8. c6, rook a8. And I thought, is this almost winning this c5 to try and get the pawn down? He did play c5. I took, and I was pleased that he played c takes b4. I actually thought c4 was more dangerous. I think this is close to winning, but it's minus 1.25 here. If we try and get behind the pawn, then apparently knight e6 isn't that brilliant here. King f2 c3, the king can come to the rescue there, threatens to come to the rescue, and we get a position here very, very tricky though, where I'd have to play something like king e4, rook c5 apparently. On a5, black is, oh, knight d5 check is the threat, pardon me. That creates that knight d5 check. So rook c5, and black is doing very well with the knight and bishop here. This is clearly better for black. Less than the pawn though. But yeah, I thought that was the strong move to play c4. But he actually played c takes b4, which is strong as well. Rook b6. Now something weird happened here. He played b3. Apparently knight d3 might be stronger. So we've got a classic sort of situation. I have got my passed a pawn. I still thought I was on the way out in this game. Now here I probably am on the way out. b3. Apparently knight e5 now. And what is black threatening? Just to take these pawns. It's pretty nasty. So this would be quite nasty. Just taking these pawns, maintaining that one. If I ever try for this one, knight c6. This just looks generally nasty. It's even possible to lose the a pawn. But something really weird happened here. He played b3. He didn't play knight d3. He played b3. And he was getting a bit short on time actually. I played king f2. And now bishop c4 was played. Am I actually threatening anything? Well, I'm sort of threatening this to tie down the rook if nothing, to get to a7 if nothing else. So bishop c4, and apparently he's less than a pawn advantage here. a5. But now, actually, this apparently was a blunder. a5. I should have played king e1. Apparently a5 is a terrible blunder. Funny enough. Leaving the pawn on a4 like this is apparently the way to go, and then play a5. Now in this position apparently knight d5 is strong here. Rook b8, there's knight c3. What is black actually threatening? Bishop b5 for queening the pawn like this. This is how to coordinate the bishop, knight and the pawn. Bishop b5 is the threat. So whatever happens now, bishop b5. If rook b4, then b2. There's a tactical knight d1 here. The knight's helping to queen the pawn. So yeah, apparently in this position I'm quite lucky, extremely lucky, that he didn't play knight d5. This is apparently like -5 if he plays knight d5. He played actually b2, and apparently this is almost equal. No, now it's not just equal, it's gone from a -5 to a plus to me of 0.15 with this one move. It does set up a trap, of course, for knight d3. I can't take the pawn, but I can try and get my king over there. I played king e1, and then he's getting to about 3 minutes now left on his clock. We've got the extra 15 minutes from this time control. 30 minutes an hour and a quarter, then 15 after. 30 moves an hour and a quarter. and he plays bishop d5, king f2 now I play. Now here I could actually consider sacrificing the f3 pawn. There's an important point to note here, okay, before I go into the bishop d5. The important point is, of course, why isn't bishop a2 working? Because rook b2, you know, knight d3. The point is, a6 is okay here for white. This is actually a clear advantage for white. If b3, I just sacrifice the rook and play a7. This is why it's very important to try and get past pawns if you're down. This is actually winning for white. The knight and bishop are not going to stop the pawn here. There's no access to e4. So this is a very, very important tactic just in time now with the a pawn that has emerged here. He plays bishop d5, I play king f2, and he repeats with bishop c4. And at some point here I'm actually feeling kind of dehydrated. I should have drunk more. I think I had to start with a cold, and I go and get a pint of water actually from the bar and come back. On the clock I think I've got about 20 minutes and he's got about 2.5. And I thought the team situation at that point was quite good. We had won the first 2 games. It's a 6-board match. I thought we were okay on at least a couple of other boards to be okay. So I thought it would be okay if I offer the draw at this point. And I wasn't really... You see, what put me off here after king e1, bishop d5, is that if I'm going to try and play for a win here, and I've only got a tiny advantage, 0.15 technically, and I thought I had been fortunate during the game, and I had played atrociously, and I didn't really deserve anything more than draw from playing this game. But apparently here, if I was forgetting the history of the game, and I really wanted to press hard for a win at any cost, there's a way to go with a6, believe it or not. So here he actually agreed a draw because he had 2.5 minutes, and actually he has fluffed it up. The knight and bishop and pawn has been fluffed up totally. He did have a knockout maneuver which he didn't precisely calculate earlier, which I've shown you with the knight c3 earlier. He's fluffed it up here. That a6 is actually okay for white, for potentially trying to play, dare I say it, for a win. If king f2, the bishop must maintain itself on the diagonal. You know, if it takes, then I say must, but a7, knight d5 takes knight c7. White's going to be okay here, I think. But if the bishop maintains on the diagonal, a7, knight d3, king e2. You see, the question is, how many of these moves would he play in 2.5 minutes if I was playing for a win? Even though he's got the 2 minor bits versus the rook, how many moves is he going to play? But yeah, I wasn't feeling great, and you know, I didn't play on. But obviously, even here, you know, what am I actually doing in this sort of position? It is kind of unethical to play for a win in the longer games. In blitz chess, you know, it's more for fun and entertainment. But when you're playing in club chess, I think it's not as nice if you're not really having the better of it. You know, to play for a win on time. If nothing else, Black could set up a fortress like this, just give back a piece, give back a piece here, and you know, it's like a fortress draw, isn't it? Really. So, but from a team perspective, I'm thinking, well, maybe, you know, there was an onus on me if I had correctly evaluated the risk on 3 of the boards that we'd lose all 3, which we did, and we lost the match by half a point, 3.5, 2.5. And to be honest, you know, the night after, the night after, I was quite regretful not playing on. But I didn't really know we'd lose all 3 games. I mean, I wasn't and I wasn't actually feeling up to trying to evaluate these other positions in the match. And I was fortunate, of course, to get to this position. I thought I was doomed from earlier. And then to top things off, I come home and there's this film on the TV about the Spartans saying they'd rather die than surrender. I thought, okay, I was feeling not feeling well. I really should have played on maybe. But anyway, now that I'm annotating this game, it really is one of my worst games, I think. And I didn't deserve even the draw, objectively. I hope you got something from it. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.